In today's news, BVI man shot dead in his Purcell Estate home, and Phase 2 of BVI's border protection reopens.
CDC tell the U.S. to be ready to distribute COVID-19 vaccines by November 1st and Jamaican elections. All that and so much more when 284 News returns.
Is business slow? Cash flow down? Hosting an upcoming event? We can help. Advertise with 284 Media and take your business or event to the next level by enhancing your present marketing and messaging strategies. Allow our team of experts to create a personalized ad that sets your business apart from all the rest. This could be your business or event. So, what are you waiting for? Contact our marketing team at 284media@cctbvi.com. Advertising with us works.
It's a beautiful, beautiful day here in the British Virgin Islands, Wednesday, the 3rd of September, 2020. My name is Javon Wilson.
And I'm Ron Grant. It's always a pleasure coming to you live and direct from the beautiful British Virgin Islands in our Nature's Little Secrets.
Absolutely, Ron. Now, overnight, tragic happenings. The territory is now mourning the death of a father of four, Mr. George Burrows, who was found dead in his home just last night. Many allegations are floating around, as we know, Ron, as the police continue their investigations, but certainly a very sad day for the 6th District community, as well as the territory, I think on the whole, amidst everything that is already happening with COVID-19, with us being in the hurricane season, and just trying to grapple with everything that's happening.
Most definitely. It's something that caught us definitely off guard, and most definitely the fact that we are under curfew, so it's surprising, but we know that bandits and persons who are seeking to do ill will don't take these measures seriously. And of course, continuing on, all national BVI residents and nationals, and of course non-nationals, they can re-enter the territory. We're going to get into that as well.
Absolutely. Apple and Google as well has launched a new virus tracking app. I know our tech giants are going really crazy about this, and as well as Jamaican elections. Persons were able to head to the poll today. So viewers, we have all that and more, but we'd like to kickstart our newscast today with the tragedy we were able to reflect on. Now, the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force is now investigating the gruesome murder of Mr. George Shawala Burrows, who was shot dead in his Purcell Estate home just last night. Acting Information Officer at the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force, Ms. Akia Thomas said, and I quote, "Officers of the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force responded to a report received shortly after 9:30 p.m. on September 2nd of a shooting in Purcell Estate. On arrival, one male was found with what appeared to be a gunshot wound and was later pronounced dead at the scene. The deceased is confirmed to be George Burrows, who resided at Purcell Estate. It is alleged that he was shot by an unknown assailant who fled on foot." End of quote. That was Ms. Thomas, of course, the Acting Information Officer out of the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force. Now, upon learning about his death, Representative for the 6th District, Honorable Alvaro Maduro Keynes said, and I quote, "This is not what I expected tonight. It is not what I expect to hear on any night. It's not what I expect to hear in my community. It is not what I expect to hear in our territory as we fight one plague. Violence should not be a plague to us as well." She also went on to say that Shawala was really well known within the community, Ron, and you know, the 6th District is truly mourning. He was very affectionately called Panchi's brother, very full of life. And, you know, he was one of the persons in the community that persons look forward to. And, you know, he was a widower as well and father of four. So it's a really unfortunate situation, especially now that he leaves for to mourn. But he was also known in the community as decent, Ron, very upstanding, and certainly someone that made people laugh. And, you know, as it relates to sports, he was an exceptional softball player. So at this time, persons with information are really encouraged. Anything that you may know, please come forward with information on this homicide. If you'd like to be a part of that process, please contact Detective Inspector Vernon LaRoque directly on the number 368-9809 or via the Major Crime Investigation Team on 368-5682. All information will be treated with discretion and confidentiality, will be reassured. 284 News, of course, would like to take this opportunity to extend sympathy to the friends and the family of the deceased. Ron, like Honorable Madura Kane said, we're already dealing with a lot. It's a trying time for all of us. But for 4 kids, I think 3 of his biological children as well as 1 stepchild, to be mourning the loss of a father in these trying times, it's just truly, truly sad.
It's absolutely difficult, Giovanna, as we look at the facts that have been presented so far. But one of the things that is absolutely memorable for me as a voting member and resident of the 6th District, born and raised, is whenever I would drive through the neighborhood with my windows down, whenever he had a problem with a news report or something that was taking place, he would be sure to stop me and say, hey, what's this about? What's going on?
Such a fan. Yes.
And absolutely, when we see community persons like this who are being themselves and they're outspoken and vibrant, it really brings into fruition a community that raises a child and a village that raises a child. Because one of the things that I see very pleasant is the Honorable Minister for that district, the Honorable Alva Madura Keynes, coming in and sharing her sentiments. Though it's a very sad and devastating time, she would have liked to not have to echo these sentiments. I think that the presence of representatives throughout the territory are of paramount importance, because it speaks to residents just to know that the representatives are, they not only do they care, but they're aware and they know who the people are, and they're like family. So I definitely want to extend, like you have, our sincere sympathies to his family and friends.
Absolutely.
Now, continuing on, out of the Associated Press, in Providence, Rhode Island, the federal government has told states to prepare for a coronavirus vaccine to be ready to distribute by, hear this, November 1st, 2020. Wow. Now, the timeline raised concern among public health experts about a October surprise, as they call it, a vaccine approval driven by political considerations ahead, of course, of the presidential elections rather than science. Now, in a letter to governors dated August 27, 2020, Robert Redfield, director of the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, said, and I quote, "In the near future, we will receive permit applications from McKesson Corporation, which has contracted with CDC to distribute vaccines to places including state and local health departments and hospitals." Redfield said, and I quote, "CDC urgently requests your assistance in expediting applications for these distribution facilities, and if necessary, ask that you consider waiving requirements that would prevent these facilities from becoming fully operational by November 1st, 2020. Now, he wrote that any waivers will not compromise the safety or effectiveness of the vaccine. The CDC also sent 3 planning documents, which are very important to some health departments, that included possible timelines for when vaccines would be available. The documents are to be used to develop plans for early vaccination when the supply might be constrained, according to one of the documents, which outlined a scenario in which a vaccine could be available as soon as the end of October. It said, and I quote, "The COVID-19 vaccine landscape is evolving and uncertain, and these scenarios may evolve as more information is available." Another of the documents says that limited COVID-19 vaccine doses may be available by early November, and that the supply will increase sustainably in 2021. It also states that initial available vaccines will either be approved by the Food and Drug Administration or authorized by the agency under its agency powers. Now, the documents encourage health officials really to work out now which groups to prioritize for a vaccine, identify providers who will administer vaccine, and take other steps to prepare. Redfield told Yahoo Finance that officials were preparing for what he anticipated, or for what I anticipate as a reality. Now, there will be 1 or more vaccines available for us in November and December. Several public health experts pointed out that the final stage trials for experimental vaccines are still recruiting, which is very important, Jovan, and are at the best halfway through the process. The vaccines are 2 doses. Understand this. These are the facts. They are applied in 2 doses, and each is given a month apart. The experts said they did not understand how they could be adequate data on whether their vaccines could work and are safe before November 1st, which is a very short timeline. Being ready is reasonable. Cutting short phase 3 trials before you get the information you need isn't. And that's a very important point. That's from Dr. Paul Offit, a children's hospital in Philadelphia immunization expert who sits on the FDA's vaccine advisory. Jovan, I know this comes as really great news for many persons, locally, particularly here in the BVI. I cannot tell you how many residents I've spoken to, and they have echoed the sentiments that we need a vaccine, and that is the single most important component that will take us through this COVID-19 pandemic and throughout. But while we're looking at the facts, we see where many other persons are saying, listen, whether there's a vaccine or not, I won't take it. And based on the story that was just presented, there are some questions.
Yeah, Ron, it's a lot to swallow, you know. Well, one of the things that's interesting about this is when that letter was released from CDC, Ron,
Yes.
it was actually released 2 days prior to when President Donald Trump gave his acceptance speech. And interestingly, within his speech, he alluded to the fact that a vaccine may become available before the end of the year.
Indeed.
And was really pushing that as a teaser. So one of the things persons are looking at now is whether this is politically influenced
Correct.
or is it backed by science. When Dr. Fahie, who of course was leading the charge within the United States, was within that role before the fights began between him and President Donald Trump. One of the things he was saying is the fact that we cannot push for a vaccine before it's properly tested and tried. And I think that's one of the major concerns here. Why are we pushing? I mean, of course we want a vaccine. We want to return to some level of normalcy, but we want to ensure as well that the process is safe. Given 2 vaccinations with a month in between,
Exactly.
it just causes a lot of concerns. And not only that, the timeline, I mean, we were super optimistic about even getting a vaccine early next year. Before this year seems like somewhat of a push.
Yeah. It's definitely an important story, and we will, of course, continue to cover. Viewers. Still ahead, after a long few months, BVI residents can now apply to re-enter the territory and elections amidst COVID-19. Believe it or not, Jamaicans head to the polls today.
Yes.
We have all the details and so much more after a word from our sponsors. You're watching 284 News.
Father Jesus, that line here long like church service.
Alright, do enjoy the rest of the day. Next customer line, please. Wait, hold on a second.
Yes, Sonny boy, come, yes,
Good
Sonny.
morning.
Good morning, Sonny boy. Hold on there. You must have cut front of people.
It's okay, I'll take care of it.
What? No man, take care of me.
How may I assist you?
Yes.
You want top of power?
You want top of power?
Join the prepaid party with CCT and enjoy more affordable data plans, more top-up promotions, more savings with hero bundles, and more value for your money each and every Tuesday with Top Up Turn Up Tuesday. Visit a CCT store today or anywhere CCT Top Up is sold and top up your phone.
5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. You want top of power?
Viewers, welcome back to 284 News. Thank you so much for joining us. Now on we go with the newscast. Coming out of the government, companies and organizations can now begin to register as part of Phase 2 of the Virgin Islands Restricted Border and Control Re-Entry Plan. The registration process will continue to be facilitated on the online portal that is www.bvitravel.vg. Again, that is www.bvi.vg, which will allow for owners or employees to register with their company and or organization and the employee who they wish to travel back into the territory. Now, Phase 2 of the Virgin Islands Controlled Border Re-Entry process allows for several new categories to be permitted into the territory, including our work permit holders, existing work permit exemption holders, residing entry permits such as retirees and homeowners, students of locally based medical schools and the H. Laverty Style Community College, persons employed by the government of the Virgin Islands bodies, agencies, boards, and teachers, whether public and private, dependents of belongers and permanent residents, work permit holders, and work permit exemption holders, which are persons desirous of conducting business in the territory, as well as the diplomats deemed as business visitors. Now, viewers, Phase 2 also allows for the entry of aviation crew, maritime crew, health care practitioners, medical staff, emergency maintenance, repair, and other technical personnel, and other essential specialized workers in the territory for no longer than 5 days. Companies that employ work permit holders that are outside of the territory must create an account online as part of the process. Again, we'd like to repeat that because, you know, Ron, a lot of persons are still not au fait with the process. You must create an account online as part of this process.
Yes.
They should also search to verify if the company has been listed in the registry, and if not, should proceed to the registration process. Now, upon submission of the online form and required documents, a team comprised of members from the Immigration and Labor Departments will review the information submitted to approve or dismiss. Registrants are advised that the process will take a minimum of 2 weeks, which does not guarantee approval prior to confirming travel arrangements. Now, Virgin Islanders, belongers, permanent residents, and naturalized citizens can continue to register through the same online platform as well to be certified and go through the pre-checks by Immigration Public Health Division as well as the Environmental Health Division. For more information, viewers, and assistance on the Phase 2 registration process, employees as well as interested persons can email BVI reentry@gov.vg. Again, that is BVI reentry@gov.vg. Ron, I know this is a long awaited process. Many of our residents are now breathing a sigh of relief at this opportunity to re-enter the territory, of course in a very careful and managed approach, because the one thing we do not want to do is retard the successful efforts of our health authorities under the ministry and leadership of the Minister of Health, Honorable Carvin Malone. We have done a remarkable job on the health side of the spectrum, and we want to be as careful as possible with the re-entry process. But nevertheless, I know persons are really relieved that they're finally permitted to return home.
I agree, Jovan. You would agree, and we see it every day in at our agency. Persons are messaging us and contacting us as to the protocols in trying to get back home. I know as we speak, many persons are trying to organize and situate themselves, or for their children or students trying to get back home. So this information definitely serves as quite needed, and I continue to wish our residents the best of luck and safe repatriation as they come back home.
Absolutely. One of the things we want to remind our viewers of as well is the fact that persons heading back to the territory can quarantine with the government for free up until October 1st. So kind reminder, I know the fee that was attached initially to the cost of quarantining within the BVI run served as a deterrent for many. Again, up to October 1st, whether you are a national or non-national, it is now free up until that time. After then, it reverts to the initial $3,500 and $2,500 respectively.
Wonderful. Now, continuing on the regional scene, we are battling COVID-19, but that does not, again, stop general elections. Out of Kingston, Jamaica, nearly 2 million Jamaicans are eligible, and they took to cast their ballots today for a new government with the two major political parties, the ruling Jamaica Labour Party, JLP, and the main opposition People's National, PNP, equally confident of winning, which we always see. Both parties are equally confident of winning until the results come out. Now, even though opinion polls support...
the people will speak.
Indeed. Even though the polls support a victory for Prime Minister Andrew Holness for the JLP. As a Prime Minister, he said, and I quote, "As Prime Minister of Jamaica and leader of the stronger team," he said, "I have never taken for granted the trust and confidence invested in us by Jamaica." 48, Holness said. He also continued by saying, after 4 years, while there is more to be done, we are proud to report that we have been moving Jamaica in the right direction. But Dr. Peter Phillips, 70, the former finance minister who is leading the PNP into the general elections for the first time, is confident that the party will reverse the 2016 election results when its loss by a slender 1 seat in the 63-member seat parliament. He said, and I quote, "After an unfulfilled promise of 5 in 4 by the JLP administration, today we are back in economic turmoil and we are suffering from high crime rates, lack of jobs, a lack of opportunities, rampant cronyism, and the theft of our resources that could enable a better life for you and your family. Now, Jovan, with the leadership we can trust, here's what he said, with the leadership we can trust, we can turn things around. We have done it before and we will do it again. We have the will and care to advance the people's agenda. Now, tomorrow, we will know the results, the full results, and by tonight, rather, later tonight, whether the people of Jamaica have reinstated the present administration or they chose a different administration. Professor of Political and Social Psychology at the University of the West Indies, Mona Campus, Christopher Charles, writing in the Jamaica Observer newspaper, noted that Jamaicans are concerned about the several important factors in the country that tend to influence how they vote in a general elections. Two of these factors are the state of the economy and the level of security in the country. He said data such as the exchange rate, the unemployment rate, and the interest rate, among other economic indications, are used to determine the perceived state of the economy overall, as well as the homicide rate that's used to determine the perceived level of security in the country. We know Jamaica has struggled with that for a very long time. However, the PNP leader believes that any solution of a crime fighting must be comprehensive and multifaceted. He said the solutions must not only address policing problems as well as deficiency in structures, conduct, and rules guiding security forces, but must take into account the deep-seated social dysfunctions. The interventions have to be as diverse as possible. Jovan, again, once we see elections amid COVID-19, but we see some very similar factors. The economy, we see health and security, as well as persons' safety, which continues to come up in a society similar to Jamaica that has struggled with law and order and violence. We see where the people of Jamaica are essentially continuing to long for something better.
Absolutely, and Ron, I think that is the accountability we need from every government across the region. One thing we realize even within this pandemic is that, you know, we have to continue. Business has to go forward. May not be as usual, but certainly we have to continue with our way of living. One of the things I think will be a really big determining factor, however, in this election and across the region, Ron, is the fact that persons are looking at how leaders are managing the COVID-19 pandemic. I know Mr. Holness, what is one person, one of the leaders within the region, who is fighting to save the economy. Yes, very concerned about the health of the people, but understanding that he cannot let the tourism economy, more specifically within Jamaica, be crippled by this COVID-19 pandemic. So early on, they were finding ways, looking at different protocols at which they can welcome persons back into that country, Jamaica, of course, a country that we all love and know. At this point, they have just about 2,500 cases of COVID-19 and I think about 21 deaths, so still very large numbers to grapple with, but nevertheless, we continue to wish and hope for all the best. I think tomorrow we'll be reporting on hopefully on who won these elections.
Now, just to reiterate for persons who may not be aware, a total of 139 candidates have been nominated to contest the elections that Holness called 6 months ahead of the 5-year anniversary of the 17th general election in the country's history on February 25th, 2016. Now, the Electoral Office of Jamaica said that both the JLP and the PNP will contest all 63 constituencies. Now, when we look at that, Jovan, that's quite an important factor. Of course, it's a different demographic and a much larger, but we see where it's vitally important for representation in each. That's something that once we cover the political landscape, we see it's important for persons to have, and for both parties to have a representative, of course, in 63 constituents is no surprise, with 13 candidates independently contesting seats in several other constituents.
Absolutely, Ron. One of the things I came across just recently on my Instagram timeline is one of the parliamentarians. Her name is Lisa Hanna, gorgeous woman, but serving as a parliamentarian in Jamaica itself. And, you know, she was really in campaign mode. She was literally eating sausages out of a can, Vienna sausages, which everybody loves,
of course.
Nevertheless. But that was what she was chomping on for lunch, because it boils down to serious business. Like we said, COVID-19 cannot stop us from moving forward. We have to move forward with the business of the people. So I'm really happy to see this coming out of Jamaica.
Most definitely, viewers, despite the threats of COVID-19 still ahead, many persons are still abiding not abiding by the rules. Premier Fahie is now pleading with those individuals to pull themselves in line and get themselves together, or else they could be facing a heavy fine. Plus, slowly developing weather systems. We have all the details. You're watching 284 News.
Brilliant Hands and Minds tutoring services, one-on-one tutorials in math and English, intense homework assistance, academic enrichment, school projects, effective communication and public speaking development, sign language for adults and children on Saturdays only. Registered with the Virgin Islands High School Certificate Program, Brilliant Hands and Minds can help you too. Offering intense curriculum-based training to help you or your loved ones get their high school diploma. It's time to make your family's education a #1 priority. Hurry, space is limited. Brilliant Hands and Minds Learning Center. We are the trained education professionals.
Viewers, welcome back to 284 News. Now, as we begin to wind down, the Premier and Minister of Finance, Honorable Andrew A. Fahie, said that it is now time that the residents of the Virgin Islands take COVID-19 seriously and fully embrace the level of personal responsibility that is needed to reduce the transmission of the virus. In a recent statement, he said, and I quote, COVID-19 update operation containment and operation eradication. He was speaking to that and said it is time for us to change our mindset on how we deal with COVID-19. It is time to change our behavior and our mindset. This is now a situation where a few persons have not been taking the closure of the territorial border seriously, even though they knew that it was closed. Now, viewers, if you're yet to see, let's go to that clip.
Here we are, with some of our efforts being retarded due to the lawlessness of a few. And I want to know that the majority of our residents want to keep everyone safe. That I know and I believe. And to help us to get rid of COVID-19 from our shores. And I know that these are the persons who are dutifully wearing their mask, sanitizing their hands, maintaining the social distancing and obeying all the protocols and advice. And those persons make up the majority, and your government, and as which I'm a part of, applaud these efforts. But there are those few who have not been taking COVID-19 seriously and have not fully embraced the level of personal responsibility that is needed to reduce transmission of the virus. For example, we have a situation where a few persons have not been taking the closure of our territorial borders, especially even though they knew they are closed. In order to immediately address this gap, we have taken more measures to further strengthen the protection of the BVI sea borders as part of the COVID-19 24-hour mitigation strategy driven by Her Majesty's Customs and Immigration under the theme BVI Love Partnering and Protecting Our Sea Borders in the new regular coupled with the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force. We have another situation where some of us are engaging in mass social or family gatherings with persons outside their immediate households. We are having house parties and getaways by our aunts, uncles, and cousins. We don't wear our mask. We do not social distance. We let down our guards because it is our family. Then we go back to our homes and we bring the unwanted and dreaded gift of the coronavirus home to our immediate loved ones. This is actually the reality of some of the cases we have learned about. The reality.
Ron, that was Honorable Premier Andrew A. Fahie, and I think he really coined it, our reality, very well, because as it relates to our behavior and how we've been managing ourselves, you know, I'm not sure we're necessarily out here doing the right thing. Have we been wearing our masks? Have we been social distancing? A lot of us are not even washing and sanitizing as needed. So some of us are, of course, but that makes absolutely no sense if all of us are not abiding by these protocols. So we want to continue to ensure that we're all doing the right thing here.
One of the things, Jovan, that keeps coming up, we hear the term clusters, but whether we want to admit it or not, we grew up in clusters. We were born and raised with persons just next to each other and interacting, and I think social behavior has to be taken into consideration as well, and we really have to look at that. So we encourage and once again employ BVI residents to continue to do their best.
Absolutely, Ron. Viewers, as usual, we're out of time, but we have so much more to afford you via our website. That is 284media.com. Be sure to check it out and read up. You can also check us out on Facebook at 284media and Instagram and Twitter at 284BVI. My name is Javon Wilson.
And I'm Ron Grant, wishing each and every one of you a terrific Thursday. Have a beautiful rest of the day. We'll see you again tomorrow as we deliver your daily dose of local, regional, and of course, international content. We're 284 News out of the beautiful British Virgin Islands.